Today we're diving deep into the controversial origins of Luke and Acts. Millions trust these texts as sacred. But what if they were, actually forged as weapons in an ideological war?
Right, so we're talking about a potential rewriting of history, almost like a literary counterattack against Marcion, who might have written the earliest version of the Gospel and Paul's letters.
Exactly, and, think about it. Marcion, around 140 CE, comes with a radical teaching that Jesus isn't the son of the Jewish God, but comes from an entirely different, pure, love-oriented deity.
Yeah, so Marcion essentially proposes a split between the harsh Hebrew God and a superior entity. It's kind of groundbreaking in its defiance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, he even put together his own canon, a shorter version of Luke and 10 of Paul's letters, all stripped of obvious Jewish references.
Right. Which leads us to Canonical Luke, a text that, instead of echoing Marcion's views, deliberately rewrites the story. It adds in elements like Jewish lineage, prophecy fulfillment, and the virgin birth. How do you see that shift?
It's like someone re-engineered the narrative from the ground up. Instead of endorsing an alien Christ, this version makes Jesus, firmly rooted in Jewish tradition.
Yeah. And then there's Acts of the Apostles, where Paul, who Marcion depicted as this maverick, becomes, well, domesticated. Acts shows him more as a team player, integrating with the Jerusalem church and Jewish practices.
Right. Acts becomes a kind of, counter-story. It tames Paul by aligning him with not only Peter and James, but also with, Roman legal authority.
Absolutely. This whole transformation seems like it wasn't just about theology. It was also about, what would you call it, repositioning power. The church was, in a sense, crafting a narrative that'd make Christianity more acceptable to both Jewish tradition and Roman order.
Exactly. It's, like a strategic rebranding. And, scholars propose several candidates as the possible authors behind this mission. You have the Roman Christian intellectual, possibly like a freedman with insider access to the imperial court, who would have been highly educated in Greek rhetoric.
Yeah. That candidate would explain the refined, almost polished style of Greek used in Luke and Acts, a far cry from what you'd expect from, say, a fisherman or a common disciple, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like crafted with the precision of Greco-Roman historiography, with speeches, sea voyages, and, legal
Sure,
drama
absolutely.
galore.
Then there's another candidate, someone from the anti-Marcionite school, maybe a follower of Polycarp or Papias. This would be someone deeply invested in apostolic authority who wanted to counter the heretical views of Marcion.
Right. They were all about, preserving the true apostolic witness. So the writings in Acts would serve as a bridge from the original eyewitness accounts to, a sanitized version that
Yeah, I
combats
get that.
heresy.
But here's a question I have. If Papias and his circle were so focused on maintaining the original witness, why isn't there any mention of Luke or Acts in their writings?
That's an important critique, honestly. It raises questions. Were they, actually trying to fill in the gaps that Papias might have ignored? Or were they, rewriting history in a way that bordered on intentional revisionism?
Definitely. Then we move on to the third candidate, a skilled fiction writer, maybe even a novelist. Some argue that Acts is not, pure history at all, but rather a Christian novel filled with adventurous shipwrecks, dramatic speeches, and a narrative structure akin to epic tales like Homer's Odyssey.
Yeah, it's, like the author was channeling the spirit of classical epic storytelling to make Paul a, mythic hero rather than the rebellious apostle we see in other texts.
Exactly. That's really a fascinating take. It transforms Acts from being a straightforward historical record to being, well, literary propaganda, almost like an epic narrative that was designed to win over hearts and minds in a volatile ideological battle.
Right on. And then we have this fourth candidate, maybe an anonymous editor involved in the process of canonization itself. Someone from the Roman circles, perhaps even bishops like Anicetus or Hegesippus, who wanted to stamp out the competing narratives and establish a unified, acceptable version that aligned with Roman values
Yeah,
and
I hear
Jewish
that.
legal tradition.
It's striking how Acts, by omitting Marcion's influences, essentially censors the alternative view by making Paul a law-abiding, team-playing hero.
Exactly. It's like whoever crafted these texts used them as a sort of canon architectural tool, rewriting history to silence diversity and ensure that the narrative supported both apostolic and imperial legitimacy.
Yeah, exactly. So when you bring it all together, you have a text that, on the surface, is packed with miraculous stories and apostolic adventures, but underneath, it's a strategic rebuttal to Marcion's version of Christianity. It's rewriting history to reinforce a particular orthodoxy.
Absolutely, and it's almost as if the text is not just conveying spiritual or historical truths, it was a battle cry in an ongoing war over the identity of Christianity.
Right, And the debate remains provocative. Was the Gospel of Luke, as we know it, a response to, an earlier heresy? If so, then the text stops being just a recounting of events and becomes, well, a tool of ideological enforcement.
Yes, exactly. I mean, look at the deliberate insertion of elements like the virgin birth, the emphasized Jewish lineage, and the peaceful integration with Rome. It's as if the author, or authors, wanted to ensure that every point reaffirmed the Church's growing
that's a sharp
political and
observation.
social clout.
It makes one wonder whether, in trying to silence Marcion and his followers, the canonical authors might have overshot the mark, erasing some historical textures and genuine diversity of early Christian thought.
Right, and I mean, if you think about it, the rewriting of these texts challenges even our modern perspectives on what constitutes authentic history. Was it careful editing, or was it outright creation of a narrative to serve specific power dynamics?
Oh, absolutely. And it opens up this broader question. Can we ever really separate the theological agenda from historical writing when it comes to sacred texts?
Exactly. It's like there's an inherent tension between divine inspiration and human manipulation. You have an entirely human authorship process dressed up as divine revelation, all for the purpose of controlling doctrine.
It's amazing to consider that, while these texts have been revered for centuries as the unadulterated Word of God, there's this whole underlying political and rhetorical battle that shaped them.
Right. And that battle wasn't just about theology, it was about power and identity in the early church. Whoever lit the match to start this war wanted to define what it meant to be part of the enlarged Christian community.
Exactly, absolutely. And it's a reminder that even the most sacred texts can have complex origins. Our modern interpretations are built upon layers of, editorial decisions that were influenced by the social and political climates of their times.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's like those texts were not static. They were dynamic battlefields. Each alteration, each added element was a deliberate move, almost like a chess game, aimed at winning hearts and minds.
Exactly. But one could challenge the idea that this rewriting diminishes the text's value. Maybe the process itself reflects the struggles of an early community trying desperately to define its core identity in a hostile world.
That's a fair point. It suggests that even though these texts are products of contestation and power struggles, they also provide us a window into the rich, tumultuous history of early Christianity.
Yeah, I see that. So, whether you view Luke and Acts as, divinely inspired or as strategic literature, they undeniably reveal the intense cultural and ideological conflicts of their time.
Exactly. And that duality, being both sacred and strategic, is what makes these texts so endlessly fascinating. They're like open invitations to explore not just faith, but the human desire to shape history in our
Absolutely.
own image.
In the end, it just goes to show that questioning the origins of what we hold sacred can lead to deeper insights. It challenges us to look beyond the surface and consider the full spectrum of human ingenuity, conflict, and creativity in shaping our beliefs.
Right. And it reminds us that the quest for truth is never a straightforward path. It's as messy and layered as the texts themselves. Thanks for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks indeed. It's been an enlightening discussion. And if this conversation made you think twice about the stories you've heard all your life, then it's done its job.
Well said. And remember, even if these scriptures come wrapped in layers of controversy and revision, they invite us to, re-examine what we understand as truth.
Absolutely. That's all for today, folks. Keep questioning, stay curious, and dive deep into the history behind the words.
Until next time, take care and keep exploring the many layers of our shared past.